What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at Marvel's Midnight Suns running on the Steam Deck here, and we're going to take a look at a lot of the settings and FSR and just kind of get an idea for performance and kind of where I plan on playing the game here. But at least it is playable on Steam Deck either way, so let's get into it here. Now, first off, I didn't force any compatibility layers here. I didn't need to. It isn't a verified game or anything, but I didn't have to do that. But it is gold when it comes to the Proton DB certification there anyways with that plugin. So let's get into it here. We are at the low preset, no FSR to start things off, and I think ultimately I would recommend staying away from FSR in this game for picture quality, unless in the open world areas like this you need a boost in FPS for whatever reason. You might want to kick that in, but I'll show you that when we get into the actual combat of the game. Switching over to medium preset, no FSR here, you can see, of course, an increase in graphics quality and then a loss in FPS, and you'll get a much bigger loss in combat if you're doing that. And then the high preset here, no FSR. Of course, I wouldn't recommend going to high or ultra on the deck, but I did just want to show them for fun here, especially with no FSR, just to see what the graphics look like here. But if you were running around or in combat in the game, these two settings wouldn't necessarily work out very well. So we'll probably stick with low and maybe some medium textures, but we'll get into that here. Now let's go ahead and turn on FSR. I'm just going to use balanced as an in-between to kind of show it here. And we'll get into more FSR settings later on in combat because it kind of means more there. But we're going to go here and go back to the low preset with FSR on balanced. And of course, you'll see a little bit of an increase now in FPS. It's not a lot, a few frames per second here. And the image quality, it doesn't take as much of a hit here in the open world area as it does in the combat areas with the smaller models, and I'll show you that. But there's definitely a difference when it comes to having FSR on or off. But like I said, if you do need those additional frames, you can turn it on here. But I just wanted to show you guys what it looked like and what the performance looked like just standing here in this one spot with a measurable difference. So low preset with medium textures I think looks pretty good. Helps a little bit with just the clarity of the picture, having a little bit better textures in the game, and having no FSR would help as well, but we do still have balanced here when it comes to this. So let's get moved into some combat and take a look at how the game's performing over there, because things are much different, of course. So here we are at 60 FPS, and the game feels great. We do have FSR on balance still here, and the first thing I saw, and I don't know if you're going to pick it up on your screen, but immediately, like, the character models were very fuzzy and they just didn't look great. So I turned FSR off, and it was just a big difference for me night and day. And I don't get much difference in FPS regardless, because we're not always pushing that GPU to the max anyways here, and I don't know, it just looks a lot better to me. Even on quality FSR here, it still took away from the character models. They're so small that the finer details they get blocky and really stick out. So I'm going to recommend no FSR in the game for myself, no matter what frame rate, unless you're in an open world area or somewhere in a mission where you're really struggling. Then yes, you could turn it on to gain a few frames. Now, there are some things with the game though, no matter what FPS or settings you're kind of using, you're gonna get some big drops in frame rate, and you'll see some examples of that here as I play around here with the low preset and no FSR. Just different moves and different times in the game that you will drop as low as, you know, in the 20s or worse, and then bounce back up in your FPS. This could be fixed with patches that could come out. I'll show 45 FPS here, something I'm a fan of sometimes in games as well, but you'll suffer the same fate when it comes to the frame rate jumping up and down on you. It doesn't break the game, especially being a turn-based game. Just depends on how much it would bug you, and if you weren't looking for it, how much you would really notice. But it is happening no matter what you do with your FPS and that type of thing. Even if we go to the old 40 FPS here for Steam Deck, same thing. Now what you do as you bring down your FPS is you're increasing your battery life. So that's definitely one reason to do it, since you don't necessarily need high FPS in a game like this. You see some big dips there. But that's about all you're really gaining, because you're still suffering those same performance issues, even at 30 FPS, which, unless you're trying to gain battery life, again, it does use a lot less power, and you can gain some. You're still, as you see here, going to suffer those types of dips and things that happen, especially during these moves. So hopefully they'll actually patch those out, and we'll be able to hold a more stable FPS on the system. But let's go ahead and go back to 60 FPS here and take a look at that performance a little bit more, because I think this is kind of where I'm going to sit at. Low preset, medium textures, FSR off, Unless I need to gain some performance somewhere, I'll kick that on if I do need to, and just unlocked on the frame rate because as a PC gamer I tend to enjoy that, but you could cap the frame rate if you need more battery or you prefer that. Now looking at another area in the mission here, just to show you an example, depending on where you're at in the game will depend on how it performs. We're not going to hit 60 FPS here like we were in that other battle, and it's much lower, and we'll experience the same kind of dips and things here. So obviously these are just examples, and depending on where you're at in the game is going to depend on the performance. But I think this video should give you a decent idea of picture quality and what kind of FPS and performance, and you know what kind of bad areas there are as far as, you know, these drops and stuff that you got to kind of be aware of. But the game is definitely playable on Steam Deck, and I'm enjoying the game itself so far. So anyways guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, if you haven't already, subscribe, thumbs up, ring the bell, leave me your comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.